Hey everyone, it's Nicole and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a start of a video that I've never attempted to do on my channel. A long form vlog, the vlog of all vlogs, and it's going to require a lot of my time and effort because I decided to read a lot of vampire books in October and talk about it. Vampires were one of my favorite creatures for such a long time, but sadly quickly after Twilight they came out of fashion and I have not seen them in popular media as much. This October is going to be very special for vampire books because Renée Ahdieh is coming out with the book called 𝕊𝕆𝕆𝕂𝕊, and it's going to have vampire themes. I'm not sure if the protagonist is going to be a vampire, if her love interest is going to be a vampire, but I am very excited regardless. It is young adult, which I think is going to be a bit of an issue for me. I love vampires in adult fiction, but I'm willing to give it a chance. So I'm reading 𝕊𝕆𝕆𝕂 by Renée Ahdieh. It's coming out on October 8th. Today is October 1st. I'm also going to read Fledgling by Octavia Butler because I've heard a lot about her and her work, and this is going to be my first introduction to her stories. I'm also going to read The Radleys by 𝕊𝕆𝕆𝕂𝕃, which is sort of the Addams Family, but if they were vampires. I think I have it here somewhere. Here it is. I also am planning on finally picking up Carmilla by Kim Turrisi, which is a book that I believe is going to cover first 2, maybe 3 seasons of Carmilla, which is a web series on YouTube that I love so much. It's also queer, so all vampires are queer, but more about that later in the video. Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, which I've heard a lot of great things about. I want to read about different kinds of vampires because the topic can be very stagnant and conservative sometimes. A lot of vampires are aristocrats, they have white skin and stuff, and I'm interested in broadening my horizons a little bit. Maybe I will even rewatch True Blood. That would be an absolute treat. Maybe I will even rewatch Carmilla. That would be even more of a treat. And the last 2 books that I've put in my TBR in case I would want to read a romance novel are Good Enough to Eat by Alison Gray and Jay, which is an urban fantasy romance about a girl that is dating a vampire. It is FF. And I also found a pretty promising one on Script. It's called Both Ways and it is written by Ileandra Young. I'm not sure if the vampire is in the Force or they are partners for a different reason, but I envision great things and I'm very excited. I'm also going to ask for recommendations on Twitter just in case I would have more time to read this month and would be able to finish more books. I hope I'm not going to fail because I also want to read other books, but I'm not sure if I would be able to do that because there are quite a few on my TBR already. I honestly won't be bummed if I only read vampire books because I'm not that interested in horror and thrillers are hit or miss for me, so it would actually be nice to read Halloween inspired books that I'm genuinely interested in. That's it for the first update. I will continue to update you throughout the month and hopefully you'll have as much fun as I will. Okay, I'm back with an update. I already finished one book. It was Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno-Garcia and I gave it 5 stars. It was amazing. I'm surprised that it's not more hyped on BookTube because it actually would appeal to people that read a lot of young adult, even though it's an adult novel. It's futuristic. It is about Mexico City and it is multiple point of view. It reminds me a lot of this gritty urban fantasy novels that are not centered that much on romantic storyline. And it also offers a very fresh view on vampires, which is something I'm looking for in this experiment. So it follows a guy who collects trash as a job. He meets a girl that he finds very attractive and very alluring, and he starts talking to her on the subway. She surprisingly doesn't reject him. She even asks him into her house. But it turns out that this invitation is not a hookup invitation. She offers him money in exchange for his blood. So the girl is a vampire, she has some secrets, and he likes her so much he wants to be her friend. She's actually a second daughter of a very influential vampire gang, and she's running away from the other vampire gang. And then there's another line with a different point of view from a police officer who hates vampires and moved to Mexico City because Mexico City forbids vampires from entering, and now has to find the leaders of these two vampire gangs and get rid of them. In this book, the vampires are a different species from humans. They are not infected, they are not connected to humans in any way, and there are a lot of types of them. So the main girl is a vampire that can turn into a bird-like creature. She has wings. And she also preys on young blood. There's also the type of vampire who can eat other vampires and serve as a source of energy as well. There are other vampires that can infect humans and make them act the way they want to, so control them. It is so exciting. I'm actually a bit sad that it's not a series, it's a standalone book. You know, I like a standalone book, but when I'm very invested into the world, I want to see more in that type of setting. I'm also surprised that it wasn't picked up by a network to adapt into a TV show or a movie. I think a TV show would work very well, especially with the setting. Maybe they could prolong the main plot because there were a lot of drug wars, a lot of stuff about cleaning groups that made sure that vampires were not a part of the city. A lot of very interesting stuff, and a lot of really cool stakes. I think that I gave it 5 stars because of my personal enjoyment. I loved the way the vampires were represented in this. So the vampire lore point would be high for this book. I would even give it 5. The atmosphere and world building had a gothic feel that I very much so enjoyed, but the world building, in my opinion, wasn't delved into deeply. And because I liked the book and the characters, I wanted to know more about the world because it was very fascinating for me. So I would give it a 4, and I would give the characters, most of whom I really enjoyed, I would give them a 4.5. So at the end, I ended up giving this book a 5. I'm moving on to reading Guilty Pleasures by Laurell K. Hamilton. It's an older urban fantasy series with an action heroine that is named Anita Blake. She's supposed to be a vampire hunter and also a necromancer. She is supposedly raising zombies out of their graves, which sounds very exciting. I'm not sure how vampires are going to be represented here. I feel like they're going to be villains, but I'm hoping for a more nuanced representation. We'll see how it goes. I've also read through your suggestions what types of books, vampire books, are your favorite. Let's get through them. I don't think I've found anything that was that interesting for me. The first person said Carmilla, which is out of competition because I've read it before. The second person said Vampire Lestat, and that's also out of question because I've read it before and I love it very, very much, but I'm not in the mood for rereading books. No one has time for that. The Vampire Diaries book series. I am not reading that. Spare me. The Night Watch by 𝕊𝕆𝕆𝕂𝕊𝕃, which is a very interesting choice because I've actually read this book way before it was translated to English in Russian, and I've seen the movies. I'm not going to pick it, obviously, because I've read it before, but it is a good series of books. The Vampire Academy series, I've read the first book and I didn't like it very much. It's giving me the same feel as the Vampire Diaries. I mean, I have not read the Vampire Diaries, but I've seen the TV show and it's crap. So, Black Dagger Brotherhood, which is interesting. This actually is an adult romance series. I've seen it a lot. I've seen these covers. They're literally imprinted under my eyelids. And I might actually pick up the first book and check it out. I don't have anything against adult romances. I'm not that keen on young adult paranormal romances because they're usually very stupid, and I don't want to ruin this month for myself. I also am not a huge fan of this type of vampire representation in fiction. It's actually one of the reasons that people see vampires as cringy now, which is annoying to me. I'm reading The Beautiful this month though, so I'm not sure what to expect because it might be real cringy too. Hi. So, I'm just out of a shower, my mind is boiling, I'm a little bit irritated because I finished the Anita Blake book when I was coming back home yesterday, and I'm still thinking about it because I'm still a little bit annoyed. But so we're just going to talk about it. We're just going to talk about it and I'm going to forget. So I gave this book 3 stars. It's a very decent rating. I gave it 3 stars because I think the writing is decent. I think it follows a lot of urban fantasy rules. Anita Blake is this pale-skinned, dark-haired heroine that knows how to fight. She is possessing some specific powers that helps the supernatural world and other people. She is a necromancer, basically. She rises people back as zombies. And she's also working for a specific department in the police that does supernatural investigation stuff. It's a great premise, but my problem with this book is that we needed to know that she has a waist to the size of my hand, basically. I know it's like a very specific thing to be annoyed by. I just don't know why we needed to have this information. Like, we get it, girl. You are thin. Wow, such an achievement. Anyway, this is not the biggest thing that I have, not the biggest beef that I have with this book. So literally she has 2 female friends she barely talks to and a fuck ton of men that are surrounding her. Half of them are her love interests. They're all supernatural creatures. They're all incredibly hot. And she also has a boss that is also a man. Like, he's the most stereotypical boss man that you see in this type of urban fantasies. I'm so pissed off by the number of male characters in this book. She literally says that she has a female friend and she barely talks to her throughout the whole book. That's what really grates me when it comes to urban fantasy. In general, I want group casts that have more women in them because I want to see interaction between them. I do want some FF romance, I'm not going to lie. Who am I to sit in front of you and lie about it? You know me. I just want female friendship. I just want to see conflicts between them. I'm just tired of every interaction being between Anita Blake and some vampire and their old beef or their possible romantic attachment or relationship. I don't know. This is me. This is just me ranting about this. And the pacing in this book is so weird. It's like looking at the chicken running around without a head. I literally couldn't tell where I am. I don't know, maybe I wasn't listening too attentively, but I couldn't tell how Anita is moving through all these scenes, like physically. I'm not amused, I'm not impressed by this book. I'm still looking for this perfect urban fantasy that I'm going to just love. Otherwise, I will just need to write it myself. This is it on Anita Blake. A bit of a flop. The vampires also, since we were talking about the vampires in this vlog, are so boring and predictable. I do really hate when vampires are one-dimensional and literally are, you know, this evil that you don't even have to explain because they are vampires. I do a lot of hand flopping today, I'm so sorry. So, the vampire lore, boring. The world building, meh. I think I'll give it like a 3.5. I don't know what to expect from the series. I'm not sure I'm going to continue with it. Characters, predictable, something I've seen before, a 3. So in the end, I do have a 3 for this book. I started The Beautiful by Renée Ahdieh though, and it is like the best thing because it is definitely historical gothic fiction, and this is my shit. Historical gothic fiction I love. I also love Renée Ahdieh's writing. I think it's perfect for historical fiction. Like, some people won't agree, but you're all peasants, you don't understand what you're talking about. Don't slander what you don't understand. I love this story, it's very mysterious. I love the feel of it. Also, you take a bunch of girls and you put them in an isolated setting, like a private school, in this case a monastery, because they're all moved to New Orleans from different parts of the world to live in a monastery and find a husband, basically, which I don't think these two things are connected, but history is weird sometimes. And they're raising money for this monastery and kind of hoping for a different life, and they're getting to know each other. This is my jam. Like, one of my favorite movies is The Moth Diaries. If the book is giving me The Moth Diaries, I am sold. I want to make an update that is not going to be about books. So, we rarely talk about what vampires represent in fiction, and I'm currently rewatching Carmilla, the web series. I'm also going to watch the movie because it's fun. What I like about this web series is that it's funny, it's adventurous, it's kind of Charmed-esque. Some people say Buffy the Vampire Slayer-esque, which I don't know nothing about because I've never watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You can drag me, I know that I deserve it, I know that I don't have any excuses. The thing that I want to talk about though is how Carmilla, the web series, brings back the queer into vampires. Vampires almost throughout the whole history of existing as a creature in fiction were queer-coded. There were also villains, and a lot of villains are queer-coded. There's a fantastic video on queer-coding, queer-signaling, and queer-baiting that Rowan Ellis did quite a bit ago. I'm going to link it because it is fun, but it's also very informational and intelligent. What I want to say is the reason why I hate Twilight so much is not because teenage girls love it. It's because it takes the queerness out of vampires. They are streetwashed to the gods because of Stephenie Meyer's own religious beliefs, which is fascinating for me and offensive at the same time. Vampires, when they started appearing in fiction, were representing the rotting bodies, because when people buried the bodies, they started seeing that they continued to grow hair, grow nails, they were bloated, and they were trying to explain it. For them, it meant that the body still lived. They were scared of it and they gave this a name. So vampires for the longest time represented this process. They've had long curving yellow nails and long hair because of that, and later as their look changed to what I call the aristocrat vampire, they became heavily queer-coded. I have seen so many early vampire movies and had read most of vampire classics, and what they all have in common is that the role of the vampire, the way they are portrayed, had changed. They were no longer one-dimensional blood-sucking villains. They were also given a lot of human traits, such as this lonely vampire trope, which is very popular and still appears in a lot of fictional stories. It portrays the vampire as the creature who yearns for company but is fated to be forever alone because of their nature. And if it's not queer coding, I don't know what queer coding is. So a gay person, and vampire definitely represents a gay man, not a gay woman, is in the eyes of the mainstream media incapable of forming relationships, incapable of forming a family, and that's why they are going to be forever lonely, because two men don't make a family. That's not my opinion, obviously, but that's how they were portrayed. And if you're a connoisseur of early gay movies, or you're a gay movies buff, you would see that the storylines that vampire got and the storylines that gay man got in this movie have a lot of overlaps. So a portrayal of a semi-modern vampire is a young man who's pale skin and kind of glowy. He's very beautiful, he's effeminate, he's fabulous, he wears a lot of gaudy clothing. He doesn't have a family or children, and he infects other people with vampirism and makes them a part of his chosen family, which can be read as a very fucked up reference to HIV, or a similar fucked up reference to gay men turning straight men into gay men, because that's what some of the public still believes. And I'm not trying to protect this image at all, because it is definitely a villain at it, but it is the type of character that I associated with when I was younger, and I internalized a lot of negative ideas normies had about queer people. What Twilight did with vampires is legit straight washing, because Edward and his family were a representation of a regular American family. They had a mother and a father and a lot of kids. She also allowed Bella to get pregnant by a vampire, which is a pretty taboo topic in a lot of vampire lore. A child vampire is turned into vampire usually, and they are considered to be even more cursed than other vampires because they will continue to be a child through the years. Stephenie Meyer said, fuck all of this, I'm going to write about straight people and I'm going to forget everything else that was written about vampires. This is why I have a lot of issues with Twilight. I can talk about this for hours, to be honest, and you'll be bored, so I'm not going to. Another interesting book that makes a lot of sense with what I'm trying to argue here is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. I don't think that she did it on purpose, which is interesting because a lot of vampire lore is not queer textual, but what she did is just gave me more of an argument. She literally took a vampire named Lestat, and she had given him a partner named Louis. He turns a child into a vampire in hopes that it's going to warm Louis' heart and that he's going to stay with Lestat because they're going to raise this child together. This is very interesting because in Anne Rice's world, vampires don't have sex. We can argue if it's good or bad, but I'm not talking about this issue right now. I think she's more comfortable with the idea that two men are in a relationship but they are not having sex. Who knows? The thing about this that is interesting is that they literally are adopting a child. It's not their child by blood. They are two cis men and they cannot bear a child. But they are becoming a family in the conservative idea of what a family is. I want you to go and think about this because it's a very interesting topic in my opinion.
If only the court could see the Queen of Darkness now. It was Celine's pride that wouldn't allow her to admit she lacked the means to hire a...
Wow. So, I love 𝕊𝕆𝕆𝕂𝕊 by Renée Ahdieh. This book was literally written for me. I love it very, very, very much, even though I'm just right in the middle of it right now. And I'm listening to it on audio, and I'm not a big fan of the voice actor. She is doing accents, and I find it very distracting, even though I think it gives the book more character and flavor. But sometimes I'm just so distracted I have to rewind it and listen to it again. And when I'm listening to it, I constantly catch myself on the thought that I want to read it physically, which for me usually is a sign that I really am enjoying the book. I have a lot of passionate opinions about 𝕊𝕆𝕆𝕂. My most theory, the one that I want to scream with my whole chest, is that 𝕊𝕆𝕆𝕂 is nothing like Twilight, and I understand why marketing teams are trying to position it as the next Twilight or the next vampire book after Twilight, because Twilight was the biggest vampire book in the past 10 years, and they're trying to chase the success, but they are getting bad reviews because people that had read Twilight and liked it for very different reasons. They liked the trashy romance part, and this definitely lacks the trashy romance part. It's a gothic, like a full-on gothic historical novel. It is very reminiscent of the older books about vampires, such as Carmilla, Dracula. They are very, very, very similar in tone. It should be targeted to people that love historical fiction, gothic fiction, dark academia maybe too, because it has like a secret society. It also has a romantic storyline, but it's so subtle so far, and it's not annoying because the protagonist, Celine, is smart. She's not a black canvas the way Bella is in Twilight, so she carries the book. It reminds me a lot of, if we're talking newer releases, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. It reminds me of the Robin Lefebvre's books about the assassin nuns. All the books with gritty settings, historical settings, and a supernatural element. I love that. So I will just end this tiny update. I immediately ship people that meet each other, recognize each other's hotness, and then also feel like they have to resist it, and that they are on opposite sides, and that are immediately also recognizing that they're maybe not bad for each other, but they would have to be very vulnerable to build this relationship. Such trash for this types of couples. So the same scenario is playing out in this book. Celine is meeting this guy, his name is Sebastian, and she's like, "You're hot, but you're also a dick. I'm not sure I want to associate myself with you, but I would also like top it. But I want to, but I feel like I should not do that." So yesterday at night I finished watching Carmilla web series. I'm also planning to rewatch the movie, and I will probably do a recap of Carmilla the movie for my Queer Movie Night series, because it's October, it's Halloween, it's fun, right? And I've also had Carmilla book written by Kim Turrisi on my TBR for this month, and I've started it. I have to say that it's pretty much non-fiction. It's 124 or 42 pages. It's very short, and it just goes into it. So We don't have the world building, we don't have the setting, it's just first person from the point of view of Laura, and not a lot of extra content. It's basically like watching the web series. So I don't see extra parts that we have not seen because Laura was vlogging in her room. And that's annoying a little bit because I expected it to be like a full-length novel that is going to give me something new, that is going to give me new dialogue, new interactions, new scenes, like a full book. And this is sort of like a tie-in with the first season of the web series. But it's fun. Like, it's fun, it's not written very well, but it's fun. So I'm not annoyed by it. I don't want to DNF it, but I will not give it more than 2 stars. I know that already, because it's not written that well, and it doesn't give me anything new, I guess. It's just as if I'm reading fanfiction from AO3, and I'm pretty sure that there is better written fanfiction for AO3. I'm also sure that I've read it before, because I'm a huge Green Path and a huge fan of the series. So it's officially the 31st of October. Happy Halloween. I will hopefully finish editing this video today, and I will post it today. My cat doesn't like it that I'm talking to the camera right now because he wants to sleep. He doesn't like it. Oh, he didn't like that. He didn't like that at all. I'm going to quickly wrap everything up because my cat is getting nervous, not in a good way. First I want to talk about Carmilla, which turned out to be, surprisingly, a 1-star read. It was terribly written, but I've had fun with it, and then I just started realizing that all the shenanigans that were a part of the web series don't really work in a novel form. And I think that what they should have done is adapt the whole web series to a comic or to a graphic novel, and it would have worked much better. So the vampire lore in this book was a 2-star, nothing original. The world building, a 2-star, nothing was fleshed out. I still love the characters, I still think that they are at least a 3 or a 4. I am conflating my experience with the web series and the book a lot, I guess. But at the end of the day, I can give this book only 1 star. I have enough shame to not pretend that it was better than a 1-star read. So it's getting a 1 star, and it's a flop. The second book that I want to talk about in this bit is, of course, The Beautiful by Renée Ahdieh, which was a revelation. I really enjoyed it. I want to sum it up very quickly without giving you much spoilers. I thought this is going to be a 5-star read. It is completely my type of book. I think that marketing it as Twilight is such a terrible idea. They should have went for the Penny Dreadful but for young adults angle, because it's literally Penny Dreadful. I love the characters, I love the atmosphere. I don't think that the vampire lore was very original. It was very classic, but I didn't mind it. It's just that for a very long period of time in this book, I didn't know who the vampire was. There was a lot of mystery surrounding that. Also, a dad is daddy, and I stan her and I ship her with Peppa so much. Overall, I gave this book 4.5 stars. Really liked it. I recommend it for people that love Penny Dreadful and TV shows alike Penny Dreadful. So The Beautiful definitely goes into the win pile. I also started reading The Fledgling by Octavia Butler. It's very interesting, it's very different, and I'm enjoying it very much. I think it's going to be a 4-star, possibly 5-star book. Depends on the way it's going to spin, because a lot of the plot of this book is circling around the protagonist's identity. It is about a young girl that wakes up in a cave, blind, without memory, and she realizes that she's injured very terribly, that her head is basically caved in, that she has scars all over her body, and that the reason why she can't see is because her eyes were also injured. Then when she feeds, she starts getting better, healthier, and she finally finds her way out of the cave, finds a burned house, doesn't remember it, but somehow feels the connection to it, then walks down to the road and hitches a car. The guy in it is horrified by her image. She looks battered and she looks extremely young. He roughly says that she looks 11. Then she bites the dude and they bond, and he succumbs to her will and she starts living with him. It's a very, very fascinating story. I'm not a huge fan of amnesia trope, but somehow it works really well here, especially because there is a supernatural twist. The protagonist doesn't remember anything, words, places, people. She doesn't know what a refrigerator is, so she pulls from her memory as her body starts healing. I think it's interestingly written. I think the character is very, very fascinating. And the only thing that makes me super uncomfortable is that she looks 11. It is emphasized so many times. When she bites the guy, he starts feeling pleasure because of the toxins in her saliva, and he either develops the attraction for her because of it, or he's legit a pedophile. She literally just offers sex because she feels like it's what she has to give him, and then he's like, but can we do that? Let's do that. I doubt that. I realized that she's actually a vampire and much older than her body, but at the same time it makes me so uncomfortable. I think it was put there for a reason, but I don't understand what reason exactly yet. I'm more than halfway into it, so the only reason why I would give it less than 4 stars would be if the secret isn't that exciting or logical. So I read 4.5 vampire books in October. I'm very pleased with most of the books that I found. I think I got a better result than I expected. I've got 2 wins. Well, 2.5 wins. Let's count the Fledgling as a half of a win. And I have 2 flops. Well, one of them is a real flop, Carmilla, and one of them is kind of a semi-flop, Guilty Pleasures. I just don't think that Guilty Pleasures was a good pick for vampires. Vampires are certainly not dead, in my opinion. There are quite a few books that are coming out every year. They're definitely not dead in Paranormal Romance 2. And I love it. I think I just have to read more vampires because I love vampires and I forgot how much I love them. In the comments down below, tell me if you read any of these books, if you enjoyed them, if you didn't enjoy them, if you wanted to read them ever but didn't have a chance. Thanks again for watching this video. I'll see you soon with my next one, but until then,